Hello guys, it's Ragemachine again. Today I'm going to be showing you an updated PvP guide for patch 6.1. This is going to be an update for my 6.03 PvP guide for a Frost Death Knight. What I'm going to be talking about, well, it's going to be four things. The first one's going to be your stat priority and your gear choices. Number two, it's going to be your talents and glyphs. Number three is going to be your macros and keybinds. I'm going to be showing all my macros and keybinds that I use for my Death Knight, and we'll be going over rotation and cooldown usage. So let's jump right into it. So for stat priority, what I tried to prioritize for my Death Knight is Mastery. Mastery is huge. Reason being is it's going to increase all frost damage done. See, right now I have at least 33% Mastery unbuffed right now. That's going to increase my frost damage by an additional 33%. And so followed by Mastery, I have it as crit. I like around a little over than 11% crit. I'm not fully geared. I'm still missing one piece left as I started the season late. But I prioritize Mastery, crit, followed by Versatility. Now, what I love about Versatility, it's going to increase your damage and your healing done by a certain percentage, and it's going to also decrease the damage taken by a certain percentage. So, that's going to be huge for you. And then I follow that by multi-strike and then haste. As I said before in my previous guide, I did like the haste build, but for 6.1 I'm really liking Mastery, crit as my top two stats right now, then followed by versatility, multi-strike, and then haste. Of course strength is your number one stat, but I'm guessing you guys already know that. And so for gear choices, I'm going to go over what I have right now. So for the headpiece, I have the versatility multi-strike right now, followed by the haste multi-strike. Now I can probably switch out my neck. There might be one that has mastery or crit on it, but that's what I have for right now, followed by mastery and multi-strike. This is the tier set. And then for my cloak, I have haste and mastery. You see this has the enchanted versatility, plus 100, plus 10 speed. Then for my chest, I have crit and multi-strike. And then my bracers, I have haste and mastery. And then my hands, I have crit and haste. My belt, I have haste and multi-strike. I can probably find a different belt piece. And then legs, haste and mastery. Then my boots, mastery and crit. And then I have crit and multi-strike for one of my rings. The second ring, crit and mastery. And then I'm actually running double DPS trinkets right now. When I'm not running double DPS trinkets, I'm of course using my freedom trinket right here. And I have the freedom trinket that gives crit right now. So those are my gear choices I have currently. I need to make a minor few adjustments to get to where I want to be at. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at your talents now. Now, let's go ahead and look at the first row of talents right here. Now, Plague Bearer. As a Frost Death Knight, I really don't use Plague Bearer. Never had to. I would recommend people stay away from Plague Bearer. It's not really necessary. All it does is it's going to increase the duration of your Frost Fever, Blood Plague, which you really don't need because it's quite easy to apply your diseases when you have these two choices that are much better. So the number one choice that I have is Plague Leech. Now what's so awesome about this is, let's say you're attacking a target and you don't have any runes, they're all regening, and so you can't obliterate, and then you're out of runic power and you can't frost strike. Well, if you have your plague up, then you just apply Plague Leech, and then you can wipe all their diseases off. That's very important. You need to make sure that there's a disease on the target in order to use Plague Leech. And then what you do, if you can, is immediately use Outbreak, so you can reapply your disease. If you can't, then what I recommend is you obliterate, and usually you proc quite a bit when you use obliterate. That'll give you a free Howling Blast. And so that's what I recommend if you don't have Outbreak up, then definitely Obliterate, get the proc, and then reapply your dots. Then the third choice right here, what I recommend Unholy Blight for is RBGs. Now, the reason I like this for RBGs, instead of wasting a Howling Blast on a big team fight, all you have to do is pop Unholy Blight. It's not going to use any runes or anything like that, so that's what's great about Unholy Blight. But for number one choice, I suggest Plague Leech. Now, going on to the level 57 talent, what I really like is Lichborn. Now, this is going to break you out of fears, sleeps. You know, this is pretty awesome. As I said, yeah, fears, sleeps, and charms as well. So this is what I have all the time. AMZ isn't quite that good. There's 2-minute cooldown, only reduces damage taken by 20% for 3 seconds, so I really don't recommend it. It's not that strong. Purgatory, there's a few times I do use Purgatory if I'm in an arena match and the other opposing team doesn't have any type of charm, fear, or sleep effects. Then I'll actually switch into Purgatory, and if I do drop down to 0% health, you know, I'll go ahead and stay alive for another 3 seconds. Sometimes I'm able to get my health back up, or if I'm running with the healer, he will to get me back up and alive and keep on rolling. So 58 talents. The number one that I recommend is Asphyxiate. Almost all the time, Asphyxiate. It's awesome. It's a 5-second stun. But when you do spec into Asphyxiate, you do lose Strangulate, and it changes the silence into a stun. Now, the only time I recommend Chillblains is, let's say you're going against a Resto Druid and a Hunter and 2s, and it's quite hard for a Death Knight to keep up with classes that are able to kite very well. And so this is going to give you a root, and it's going to allow you to root that target for 3 seconds and allow you to catch back up to him. So that's really the only time I recommend it. It also allows your frost abilities to apply a slow. So you're always going to be slowing somebody, and it's going to give you the ability to root someone. And then the second reason I recommend Chillblains is if, let's say, you're running RBGs and you're running a real heavy melee comp and you have a lot of stuns, and then what you can do as a Death Knight is switch into Chillblains so you have a silence instead of a stun, which is pretty awesome. So that's only 2 reasons why I recommend Chillblains for you to use. Every other time, you should be using Asphyxiate. Now, for the level 60 talent, you have Blood Tap, Runic Empowerment, Runic Corruption. Now, the best success I've had out of these 3 talents is Runic Empowerment. It's a passive ability, and it gives you a 1.50% chance per runic power spent to activate a random fully depleted rune. So this is the best success I've had. The thing with Blood Tap, it's a more controlled burst, but it's a little bit. It's not necessarily hard to manage, but it can get a little annoying. But I've had more success with Runic Empowerment. What Runic Corruption is going to do, it's going to actually speed up the rune regeneration. So what I recommend is Runic Empowerment. You can try out Runic Corruption, see if you like it, but I've had more success with Runic Empowerment. Now, the level 75 talent. I have Death Pact. This is huge. I really like using this a lot. Heals you for 50%. But the big downfall of this is it's going to absorb the next 25% equal to your health for the next 15 seconds. So you got to be careful when you're using this. Sometimes you're just forced to use it, but unfortunately it can kill you. The problem I have with conversion is it takes a lot of runic power to restore your health. And with my experience in arenas, RBGs, you really don't need conversion, because if they are focusing you, you switch into blood presence, and you're quite hard to take down and kill without conversion. And so that's why I recommend Death Pact, and it's just nice to pop a 50% heal off, just like that. So Death Siphon, I don't like it because you're going to be sending a death rune. and you should be spending all your runes on Obliterate, as that's your big main ability to be using. Now, for level 90 talents. Now, the two talents that I like is Gorfian's Grasp and Desecrated Ground. Now, the reason I like Gorfian's Grasp is for RBGs mainly. What Gorfian Grasp allows you to do is put players in bad positions. For example, let's say you're running with a Boomkin or a Frost Mage. Now, you as a target caller, as you should be the target caller for the RBG group, it's your job to coordinate your team CC. So let's say you ask your Boomkin, hey, do you have a solar beam up? Do you have solar beam up? And he's gonna be like, yeah, I do. Okay, I want you to put it on this target, okay, and do it in 3, 2, 1. And when you do that, he solar beams the target, and then what you do is you Gorfian's Grasp everybody, which is awesome. Now, if they're running Mass Entanglement, then what you do is you're like, alright, I'm going to Gorfian's Grasp in 3, 2, 1, you Gorfian's Grasp, and then he sends out the Solar Beam, and then he Mass Entangles, or he uses Vortex on everybody, because if you don't use Gorfian's Grasp first, then everyone's going to be able to just run away. Now, now, I do recommend Desecrated Ground for pretty much everything else, for all arenas. This acts as a trinket for you. That's why I'm not running my trinket right now. I still have it keybound. But I really like Desecrated Ground. As I say, it's a trinket on steroids. It basically removes everything. I do not believe it removes roots, but everything else it does remove. Oh yes, it does. I'm sorry. Yeah, it does make you immune to roots and snares and everything. But as long as you stay within the 8 yards, you can't be CC'd, which is pretty awesome. And then Remorseless Winter, I never use it. It's just bad to use. I have seen some people use it, some other DKs and maybe 3s matches, but I really don't like it, especially when you can get a free trinket. So, moving on to the 100 talent. Now, the two big talents here are Necrotic Plague and Breath. Now, these two are pretty darn good talents. Now, in 6.1, Necrotic Plague did get a bit of a nerf. What they did was you're not able to generate runic power when people are attacking you that have the plague on them, and so you're not getting as much runic power, which really hurts. But they did buff up the damage by 20%, I believe, if that's correct. I might be wrong. But overall, if you want a passive ability, then definitely you use Necrotic Plague. But for 2s and 3s, you should really be using Breath of Cindergrosa. This is huge. This is like a burst within a burst. So you build up your runic power with Obliterate. You try to get to 100 runic power, and then you pop this bad boy, and it's just nasty, because this in itself is a burst. Because if you pop your burst right here, I'll be showing this burst macro later. But when you pop that and you get your 3 Obliterates off, you're hitting anywhere from 30 to 50k plus. And then after you do those 3, it goes boom, 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 and then you pop Breath of Cindergrosa. It's just disgusting. I mean, you literally drop people quite quick. So I recommend Necrotic for RBGs. Just giving you the ability to easily spread your dots, because it is one dot. It takes your Frost Fever and your Blood Fever dot into one. But it's really up to you. For 2s, 3s, you should be using Breath. 5s, but Necrotic, I mean, it's really your preference. I've been using Necrotic more. I should be using Breath more, but I just haven't been, because I'm lazy. I really like passive abilities. They're easy to manage, and so yeah. Now, moving on to glyphs. So, you have some really great glyphs as a Death Knight. So the most important, or one of the most important glyphs for Death Knight is Glyph of Icy Touch. Now, what's huge about this? It's going to allow you to dispel magical effects. So if a paladin hodges a target, you're able to actually remove that bop. You know, you're able to remove it, and you're able to, you know, keep on putting massive damage. You know, I love when I'm in a 2s or 3 match, and a paladin will actually bop himself instead of using Divine Shield, because I'll instantly remove that, and then he's in real big trouble. Usually I'll drop him when that happens. Sometimes he's able to keep himself up, but most of the time, if he bops first and then I dispel it, you know, it's game over for him. And then the second glyph that I like using most of the time is the glyph for regenerative magic. Now, what's so cool and fun about this is if there's not enough damage to consume your magic shell, then it'll actually be reduced up to 50% based of the amount of damage absorption limit. So let's say you don't take any damage at all, it's going to change that 45-second cooldown to like a 22-second cooldown, but it's really dependent upon how much damage you took. That's going to reduce the cooldown for this. So that's why I love this. I recommend this. Most of the time I use this to try to block fears, cyclones, you know, etc. That's what I really try to do. Now, the difference with, oops, it's up here. Anti-magic shell, it's going to allow you to absorb all incoming magical damage up to the absorption limit. So then if you spec into this, then you're going to be using this ability when you're like at 30-20%, when you're getting real low, because this is your biggest defensive cooldown right here, is AMS. And so that's the big difference between these, depending on what you want to do. You know, if you're going against let's say a mage in a druid, a resto druid, something like that, then definitely spec into this so you can block those you know, you can go ahead and block those ice traps, cyclones, you know, polymorphs. So it's pretty awesome. One of my favorite glyphs to use. The next, I mostly, actually, I should change that. I only use this for arenas. For 2s matches, if I'm not running with a healer, I use Glyph of Empowerment. Now what this does, it makes your Empower Rune weapon more of a defensive cooldown rather than an offensive cooldown. Because what it's going to do for you, it's going to heal you for 30% of your maximum health. So if you've watched my videos before, you've seen that I pop Empower Rune weapon before I hit Death Pack. And the reason I do that is because it's going to absorb healing equal to 25% of your max health for 15 seconds. And so that's why I pop this first, because it's not going to absorb any. You know, it's going to heal you for 30%. And if I still need heals, then I'll go ahead and hit Death Pack, which is awesome. Now, another thing I should mention when you're using Death Pack is that 15 seconds, you really don't want to waste your Death Strikes in that 15 seconds. So sometimes what you'll see me do is if I have AMS up, and I'm taking a lot of damage, but Death Strike, you know, I'm not going to be able to do enough Death Strike to equal to 25% of that. And so what you'll see me do is I'll actually pop this, and then I'll go ahead and pop this, you know, midway through, and then once this debuff is up, then I start Death Striking again, and then I start getting more healing. So let's go ahead and take a look at some other great glyphs that I like using. Runic Power. This did get a little bit of a nerf, I believe. I believe it was at 3 Runic Power for every second for 5 seconds, I believe. I might be wrong, but this is awesome if you are being kited a lot. You know, you're being slowed almost all the time, so then definitely use this and swap it out for Glyph of Empowerment. Another one, I do like using Strangulate sometimes. If I'm not using my Asphyxiate, and if I hit my Strangulate when they are casting a spell, it's just going to put an extra 2 seconds of silence on them, which is pretty good. So I mean, it's kind of up to you. I don't use it too much. Every now and then I'll use it. Another good glyph is Enduring Infection. You know, it's going to allow your disease not to be dispelled, but there's a cost of you losing 15% damage. But But Necrotic Plague, though, it did get a 20% buff increase in damage, and so really, if you go back to 6.03, you're actually getting, if you are using Enduring Infection, then it's going to be a 5% damage increase, but I mean, it's up to you if you don't want your abilities dispelled or not. And then for RBGs, what I really recommend is Death Grip. You are playing a Death Knight, more likely you are going to be the target caller, and so what the Glyph of Death Grip is going to do for you, it's just going to increase that range on your Death Grip, and it's going to allow you to place people in bad positions. The reason why the Death Knight is a target caller is because of Death Grip, because you're going to be placing people in bad positions. It's really going to hurt people, you know, so that's why you see Death Knights as target callers, if you didn't know. And then two last glyphs I really like is Dark Simulacrum. It's going to reduce the cooldown by 30 seconds and increase its duration by 4 seconds. So if you're good at stealing CCs like Polymorph Spheres, then definitely use this. Now, the next one is Death and Decay. Now, I don't use this too often, but if I'm in RBGs, let's say we're running carts, this is awesome because it's going to slow people within its radius by 50%. Because when you're playing carts, you don't necessarily need to kill people. It's more of slowing people, rooting people to the next cart, and getting your team there first, and establishing your dominance. And this is just going to allow you to slow people. So those are the glyphs that I really like using. Oops, didn't mean to pop that. Alright, so next we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and look at my macros and keybinds. So, I don't use too many macros on my Death Knight. So the first macro I have right here, and also I'm going to be leaving the description of all these macros down in the description in the video, so you can just copy and paste these real easy. So, the first macro I have is my burst macro. So it's real simple. I have is Pillar Frost and my trinket that I have that I'm using right now. Now you can place any type of potions you have or any type of stuff that you can use for BGs. And then the next one, I haven't used this one in a long time. It's my Shift 2 button. I have a Razor Naga, so that's Shift and then the 2 button on my Razor Naga. But what's cool about this, as I said, I haven't used it in a while. What it'll do, it'll apply Howling Blast, and then also it'll apply Chains of Ice on your target. But I really don't recommend it because you only should be using Howling Blast when you get a proc from using Obliterate. But this is definitely a cool macro if you want to check it out and try it out. See, I even still have Cast Raise Dead on here. That's how old it is. But it's definitely a cool macro to use. If you want to try it out, I recommend it. So my next macro is my Focus Grip. So this is pretty simple. I have it as Q on my board. So all it is, my focus target. I right click them and they're set for my focus. They'll pop up right here. And you know, just if you want to focus your target, interrupt their cast or whatever, then you could definitely use this. Then for my next macro, I have Mind Freeze. I have it as F Mind Freeze. Again, it's another focus macro, real easy. I have it as my Shift scroll down button on my Razor Naga. So, and then another one is another focus macro. It's going to be for Plague Leech. So, let's say you don't have any runes ready and you're wanting to use Plague Leech, but what you can do is just remove the dots off your focus target and then go ahead and take the dots off your focus target and then, you know, go ahead and start using the ability. So, going to go ahead and look at the next one. This one I haven't used in quite a while. You guys can go ahead and try it out if you want, you know, tweak around with it. But what it's going to do, it's a castsequence macro. It's going to cast Obliterate and Frost Strike. Now the problem I've been having with it lately is even if I have Frost Strike ready to use, it doesn't necessarily Frost Strike because it obliterates first and then Frost Strikes and then it'll obliterate and Frost Strike, and so let's say it's you know, it's part of the cast sequence to use Obliterate, then you're not going to be able to use Frost Strike. Then usually you need another, you're going to need Frost Strike up on your bar like somewhere else. Let's say for a Q, you know what I mean? So it's definitely a cool macro if you want to try it out. Instead of having to push 2 buttons, you can just push 1 button. I like it. Alright, so next one's going to be my grip. Now this is for Gorfian's Grasp. You see right here as my R button. Now what this is going to do is the way Gorfian's Grasp, it brings everyone to the target you have selected. And so what this macro is going to do, it's going to select yourself, /cast target trunk, and then Gorfian's Grasp. So it's going to pull everybody, all my targets, around to me. So that's what's cool about it. And then the next one is Raise Alley. That's for other stuff. I don't actually have it on there, but this is for Strangulate. I have it as Show Tooltip Strangulate, but I'm spec'd into Asphyxiate right now, so it's going to show the Asphyxiate one. This is just cool to silence your focus target. Works the same way as your stun for Asphyxiate. So I mean, they're all the same. They're all same focus macros. So those are the macros that I use. I'm going to go over my keybinds that I have. So as my 1 button on my Razor Naga, it's Obliterate. 2 is my grip. 3 is Frost Strike. 4 is Dark Simulacrum. And then I have Asphyxiate as 5. I have Outbreak as 6. Death and Decay 7. Icebound Fortitude 8. Then I have my Health Stone as 9. And then my Focus Stun is 10. And then followed by my Death Strike as Shift 1. So I hold down Shift and I press 1 on my Razor Naga. And then this is the chains. This is the Howling Blast and Chains of Ice macro that I have. I have the Shift 2. And then Howling Blast is just Shift 3. AMS is Shift 4. Icy Touch Shift 5. Chains of Ice Shift 6. Horn of Winter Shift 7. Blood Boil Shift 8. You don't need to worry about these guys. The Focus Plague Leech, I have the C. I have Plague Leech as E. And then I have Soul Reaper as G. Path of Frost T. My Trinkets is X. Lichborn Z. My Focus Grip is Q. Gorfian's Grasp is R. My Burst is F. And then Army of the Dead is Alt 1, so I hold down Alt, and then I press 1 on my Razor Naga, and then Alt 2 as Plague Strike. So, and then these right here are just placeholders for me. Just easy to see when it'll be ready. How long is left on the cooldown. So now let's go ahead and go into rotation and cooldown usage. Oops, lagging out a little bit for some reason. It's probably because I'm uploading another video right now to YouTube. Okay, so now let's go ahead and go into your rotation. So let's say this is your target. So one of the first things that I do is sometimes I'll go ahead and just stun them right off the bat. So let's say if they're mounted or something, I'll just go ahead and stun them. If they're not mounted, what I'll do is I'll hit them with Chains of Ice just to slow them. And then, so let's go ahead and do that. Chains of Ice. Oh, I do apologize for the lag. So I hit Obliterate, 1, 2, 3 Obliterates, and see I got a Howling Blast proc. So boom, hit my Howling Blast. And then I have Killing Machine. So you want to use your Killing Machine on Obliterate. So let's go ahead and explain Killing Machine. Let me go ahead and pull it up. So now Killing Machine is a passive ability. Now this is one of the most important mechanics as a Death Knight. Killing Machine is going to allow your auto attacks a chance to make your next Obliterate or Frost Strike automatically crit all the time. So as you saw my buttons light up, that was because I got a Killing Machine proc over here. And so you never want to waste a Killing Machine proc on Frost Strike. It's very bad to waste it on. You really don't want to be doing that. So you always want to be spending your Killing Machine proc on Obliterate. Reason being is you're going to get a 50k crit next to, if you use it on Frost Strike, maybe a 20, 30k. Sometimes a 40k crit, but most of the time it's just about 30k. So if you can, try to avoid wasting Killing Machine proc on Frost Strike. So as your rotation is just apply your dots. So as I said, what I like doing is either I'll stun them or I'll use Chains of Ice on them, and when I use Chains of Ice, I'll actually apply Necrotic Plague, which is kind of cool. But if you do not have Necrotic Plague and you have Breath, then what you need to be doing is using, where's it at? Plague Strike. That's going to apply your Blood Plague. And then you're going to have to hit your Howling Blast, or what you can easily do is just hit Outbreak to spread both diseases. But if you're necrotic, your Icy Touch, Chains of Ice, Howling Blast, your Plague Strike, they're all going to apply the Necrotic Plague on them, which is pretty cool. So your main priority, apply your dots, upkeep your dots at all times, make sure they're always up. And then what you do is you hit Obliterate. Once you get a Howling Blast proc, I believe it's called Rhyme, then you go ahead and spend that on Howling Blast. Then you have to keep an eye on your runic power, which will generate right here. If you don't have my UI set up, it's blue, it's 0 out of 100, but you definitely want to watch that. And if you're in Frost Presence, your Frost Strikes are only going to cost you 25 runic power, which isn't too bad. So you can spend 4 at 100 runic power. But even when you use Frost Strike, you do have a chance of getting a Killing Machine proc. And as I said, try not to waste it on Frost Strike, because that'll really hurt your damage. And so, let's go ahead and go into your cooldown usage. So, okay, let's go ahead and go over Empower Rune Weapon. Now, Empower Rune Weapon, I use it more defensively than offensively. What this is going to do, it's going to refresh all your runes, and then if you're spec'd into the glyph as I had, you're actually going to be healed for 30%, which is cool. And so what I do is if I do need to be healed, let's say I'm hovering at 40%, and I have no runes to use, then I'll just go ahead and hit this. And then I'll refresh all my runes, I'll be healed for 30%. And then I'll go ahead and start obliterating again. I'll start to obliterate again, get some Howling Blast procs, and then spend the runic power on Frost Strike, and so on and so on. However, if you're not using it defensively, then what you want to do is you pop your burst, and you do your 2 to 3 obliterates, and then you spend your runic power, and you can get off another obliterate. Then what you can do is you hit your Empower Rune Weapon. So you pop your burst, you get your 2-3 obliterates off, and then you go ahead and hit your Empower Rune Weapon, and you get another, you go ahead and get another 3 obliterates off, and it's just massive damage across the board, which is awesome. So it's up to you if you're going to be using this offensively or defensively. Even when you do use it defensively, it's going to help you do some more damage, because all your runes are refreshed. The next cooldown is Death Pack. Now this cooldown, I use it after I use Empower Rune Weapon if I need to. Try not to waste it. If you're over 50% health, try not to waste it on that, because it will heal you for 50% of your health. So go ahead and try to use it below 50%. And then the next cooldown is Anti-Magic Shell. Now you can use this 2 ways. You can use this to block cyclones, fears, sheeps, all that type of good stuff. You have the option of using it that way, or you can use it more defensively and then spec into this glyph right here. And you go ahead and use that when you're at 20-30% health, because as I said, this is your biggest cooldown, next to Icebound Fortitude. And I'll go ahead and talk about Icebound Fortitude next. Now what this is going to do for you, it's going to reduce all damage taken by 20% for 8 seconds. So that's a nice little cooldown for you, but what's real cool about this is it makes you immune to stun effects. And so what you'll see me do, and what I love to do, is let's say there's a rogue and he goes ahead and tries to open up on me and burst on me, and oftentimes you're getting stunned quite a lot, but if you pop Icebound Fortitude, you can't be stunned at all, and so you're still attacking him, you're able to CC him, you're able to throw out a stun, slow him, try to get away, whatever. whatever you're trying to accomplish. But this is really great against rogues and just getting you out of stuns, you know. So it's kind of a minor trinket for you, but it is a great cooldown to use. Now, another cooldown to be using is Dark Simulacrum. Now, this is probably one of the best abilities in WoW, but it's very hard to master. Reason being is you're trying to steal CCs. Sometimes you don't know what you're going to steal, or what they try to do is a fake cast on you, and let's say, you know, they're casting a fear, but they stop and then they cast something else, you're going to end up stealing that spell. And so it's kind of hard to manage. What you can try to do is once they've got to about 75% on the cast bar, on the target's cast bar, then you go ahead and cast it on them, and then you're able to steal that spell. So it's awesome because you're able to steal fears, polymorphs, divine chills, amongst bubble. So this is a very powerful ability for you to use. What I do recommend is Gladiator LOSSA, because she's going to go ahead and call out the target spells that they're using, all their cooldowns and everything, and so it allows you to hear what they're casting. So, you know, you'll hear, say, fear, and then like, oh, okay, they're casting a fear, I can go ahead and steal their fear. What I actually don't have as a macro, and what I should, is having a focus target macro for Dark Simulacrum, or arena target macro. I'm not real big on arena target macros. I don't know why, just not. But you should definitely look into those. But you should definitely have a focus macro for Dark Simulacrum. I'm still in the habit of clicking on their name and then using on it. So yeah. And then some other cooldowns. Let me see. Of course, it's your Asphyxiate every 30 seconds. Try to use it every 30 seconds. This is big. This is going to allow you to kill targets, to put them in the graveyard, and just wipe them. You know. So, you know, that's the 6.1 PvP guide. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please make sure to like, comment, subscribe. If you want, you can go ahead and check out my other videos that'll be popping up right now. And so you go ahead and click on those links, you know, check them out. I've been playing a lot of H1Z1, so if you guys are into that, or if you want to check it out, it's an awesome game. It's really fun. It's a zombie survival game, so it's really cool. It is in alpha right now, so there's some bugs and glitches, but it's really fun. So yeah, so I hope you guys enjoy. I'll see you next time.